With a population of around 37 million people, Uzbekistan is the most populous state here in Central Asia. 60% of that are under the age of 30, and half of that are under the age of 18. And it's only fitting, given that, we have invited the representative from UNICEF in Uzbekistan, Regina Castillo. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
And I know you just arrived a few months ago. How has it been? How are you settling in?
It has been wonderful. It's such a beautiful country, I have to say. I think the trademark of Uzbekistan is hospitality. People have told me that this was a hospitable country, but I never thought the dimensions of being hospitable. Friendly, hospitable, safe, and kind.
In this short time that you've been here, but you've worked in various other countries within your capacity within UNICEF, how does Uzbekistan compare in the short time that you've been here to your other postings?
I think it's a combination of many postings. I have been in the United Nations system for 25 years. I started my career at the UN Secretary General's office. I worked for Kofi Annan for many years, and I directed programs for HIV, health, and also this is my third duty station as UNICEF representative. And I have worked in countries, middle-income countries, high-income countries. So I bring a combination of good practices from many countries. And I have to say that this is a privileged time to be in Uzbekistan. I see a tremendous reform. The speed of the reforms are amazing. And I just feel fortunate that I am here.
Well, that's a very positive outlook.
Yes.
And UNICEF itself, among other things, helps with child protection, health, education, social policy and protection. Can you tell us a little bit more about just an overview of the programs that you have going on here?
Our vision, our UNICEF vision, is centered on the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which focuses on the fact that every child has a right. The right to education, the right to health, the right to identity, the right to play. And those are inalienable rights. Children are born with those rights. They're not given by the parents or by the government or by anybody. They're born with them. So we have a child rights approach to our programs. So when we focus on health, we look at all aspects of health. For instance, we look at the child. Let's say we want to reduce maternal and neonatal deaths in Uzbekistan. So we not only focus on equipment, providing equipment, but also we focus on the training of doctors. We ensure that families know how to prevent early miscarriages, that they know how to nourish themselves, nourish their bodies, that they know how to go to the clinic on time, that they have their prenatal care. We also work with the community itself, so we see things in a holistic way. And also the same happens to our programs in education. We not only work with that child, but we also make sure that the teachers are well trained, that there are the digital tools, that there is a curriculum, and we work with the government and partners to ensure that everything is in place for that child. So we bring a lot of enormous learning from good practices in more than 190 countries all over the world that we apply and we adapt to the situation in Uzbekistan.
And you've touched a bit on working within healthcare, and I was going through the UNICEF's website and I come across some statistics specifically about HIV, and that there are around 6,000 children in Uzbekistan with HIV, living with it, getting treatment for it.
Yes.
How is UNICEF working with the local government and with those affected families to combat this virus?
I think it's really important to work with the health system as a whole, and also to destigmatize the issue, right? I think it's really important for the health system to understand that HIV is not easily transmissible by holding hands or sharing the same seat or hugging each other. And I think children need to know that, and other children around them need to know that. And also the doctors need to be ready to to work with them, to help them. And now there are many kinds of treatment for children which allow them to have a very long life. Mm-hmm. You know, when I was working many years ago on HIV, I traveled a lot to Africa, right? And you might have seen it, you know, being from Namibia. And I saw populations totally decimated, you know, only the children and the older generation. Now we are lucky to see, you know, antiretrovirals that keep people healthy. Mm-hmm. But we have to reduce the stigma around it so that children living with HIV can have a fulfilling life.
And then what's the easiest way to eliminate that stigma? How do you take that away?
I think we need to work with, it takes a village to raise a child, right? So we have to work with the school system, we have to work with the health sector, we have to work with all aspects of society. And also to understand, you know, the issue and make sure that that a child is free from discrimination. I was reading poetry from Maya Angelou. You must know
yes.
her. And she said, I have learned that we forget what people say or what people do, but we never forget how they make us feel. And I think discrimination is like that. Children feel it, right, when something is not right. And that lives, you know, for a long time, right? So we have to work on all aspects, on health, on protection of children, on education, to make things work.
And now you've provided the perfect segue into education. Uzbekistan's education has been through lots of peaks and valleys over these last 30 years since independence. And I think one of the newest aspects to it is inclusive education. Can you tell me a little bit more about the inclusive education, what it is first, and how it's manifesting here in Uzbekistan? Who are the most marginalized groups, mm-hmm. and how can we make them feel like they are included?
First of all, let me acknowledge what has taken place when it comes to education. Mm-hmm. Right? Just a few years ago, 30% of the children went to preschool, had access to preschool. Mm-hmm. Now 70% of children have access to preschool. That's an enormous, enormous achievement. And I would like to, you know, take the opportunity to congratulate the government, especially the Ministry of Preschool and School Education, for that achievement. And UNICEF has been at the forefront of working with the Ministry of Education and working with partners to design the strategy, the way forward when it comes to education. And I think it's really important not only to invest in infrastructure, but in all the soft components around education. For instance, we work really hard in ensuring that teachers are trained for inclusive education. And when I was in Termes, I visited one of the schools where we have built an early childhood education center. And it was a school that did not have, you know, the reading corner, the play corner for children, and we
like an exploring area,
all the areas for early childhood education, which is really important. Early childhood education for UNICEF is the great equalizer, because if you invest $1, 2,700 Sum in education, you get $13 in return. 13 times that investment. Why? Because a child who goes to preschool education, science, the evidence tells us that that child is more likely to succeed in primary school, mm-hmm. more likely to succeed in secondary school, and more likely to go to university.
Because they have such a strong foundation.
Strong foundation. And also, you know, it's helps for socialization. Mm-hmm. It helps to understand the rules. It helps to speak with, you know, be with other friends. Kids learn with other people. Kids learn by playing. So for us, playing is a very serious thing. Mm-hmm. And it's also imprinted in the Convention on the Rights of the Child, the right to play. So when it comes to education, we work a lot on preschool education and ensuring that children are included, especially children with disabilities. I know that there's a lot of obstacles to the inclusion of children with disabilities, but we need to ensure that everybody gains, right? Because even the children who do not have apparent disabilities, they also learn from children with disabilities, right?
This is true.
And so you create a learning environment, an inclusive environment for everyone. Also, we work on curricula. Right now, we're going to work in 30 schools, in rural schools, along with UNESCO, our partner, and the government, to ensure that 30 schools are digitalized, inclusive, and have water and sanitation programs. So we look at the school in a holistic way. The school has to be a safe place for children. So we work on bullying, we work on inclusive issues, we work on the training of teachers. We also introduce digital tools. I was very pleased to see the results of EduTeen, which is an AI, artificial intelligence tool to learn maths. Uzbekistan, like many countries around the world, is struggling with the PISA results, right? And the results of EduTeen, of gaming, playing for the kids.
Gamified learning.
Yeah, increased the results by 16% in just a few weeks in the number of schools that applied this digital tool. So for us, the introduction of digital tools have to lead to concrete results. Also, by bringing partners, by creating the strategy, we have leveraged more than 600 million. Why? Because we have worked with the Ministry of Education to ensure that all donors are going in the same direction where the country is going, and that the introduction of digital tools and also learning goes, for the benefit of the children. We also introduced in the school wash and sanitation. I think it's not only about ensuring that every school has toilets. Toilets is just one aspect. It's the whole culture around hand washing. Hand washing is critical for health, right? Because children are healthier when they have their hands clean. And it also, having bathrooms is essential for girls during their menstrual cycle. We have found that schools without a toilet sometimes inhibits girls from going to school during their menstrual cycle.
Yeah. And that's missing out on the chance of education.
Exactly.
And you mentioned the importance of the WASH program that you have. And I noticed that in Karakol, Pakistan alone, there's in 30 plus schools and healthcare facilities, you have set up infrastructure for WASH.
Yes.
Why the focus on Karakol, Pakistan?
I just came from Karakol. It was really incredible to see our programs, to see children washing their hands, creating this culture around hand washing, and also having for the first time access to clean water. So for me, it was really important to see it, but not only on WASH. I went to visit a prenatal health clinic and a hospital, and I saw a brand new baby, and the doctor said, we managed to save her because of the equipment that you provided. For me, that was the highlight of my trip. But coming back to WASH, it's really critical, important to create climate resilience approaches, right? Because water is very scarce. I visited the RLC, which is a tremendous tragedy for not only for Uzbekistan and the neighboring countries, for the whole world, right? And so we have to prevent that doesn't happen again. And I have seen in the past few years how Uzbekistan is moving to renewable energies. You see more solar panels. We, as UNICEF, has set up solar panels in schools as well, ensuring that we have more clean energy. and also ensuring that we have access to water, which is a vital resource. And when it comes to water and climate, it also leads me to building the new generation of climate change advocates. I was just in a training with 50 students from 20 schools in Uzbekistan, from 14 regions, including Kazakhstan, to learn how to be climate change advocates. We're extremely proud of working with the Samin Foundation, the Ministry of Ecology, and other partners to ensure that climate change is very much on the agenda. So we work with youth also to ensure that they know that we need to work on the present so that we have a better future, a future where we have access to water, to clean air, to natural resources, right? For them and for their kids.
Anyone watching, any teenagers or youth who want to get involved, how can they?
We have all kinds of programs. We have UpShift program, which focuses on entrepreneurship skills. We focus on the most marginalized children. And sometimes it's hard, because our programs cannot extend all the millions of children. But we start with the most marginalized children, the children who perhaps live in rural areas, who might not be from Tashkent. And we focus on skills, 21st century skills, so that they can find a passion. We also focus, for instance, we have been doing STEM for girls, robotics and IT. And now I think the biggest challenge for us is to ensure that there is a pathway from learning to earning. Because what we have found is that a lot of the girls who are in STEM do not end up in STEM.
Unfortunately.
And for us, that's a lost resource, right?
Agreed.
We need to ensure that girls have equal opportunity as boys, and that they are able to contribute to their country, right? Yeah. I see a lot of passion. I met yesterday a girl who wanted to study astronomy, and I hope that she she goes to the moon one day.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Because I know a lot of families here are changing their mindsets. They are changing that notion that their daughters are not just there to be someone else's wife and to be a mother. And I see a lot more families encouraging their daughters. Do you see a similar trend?
I see a tremendous change. I mean, social norms are hard to beat in any single country, right?
Yes.
We all grow up with certain social norms around us, right? But we need to ensure that both boys and girls have equal opportunities. And the problem is when certain norms infringe on their rights, the right to education, the right to health, right?
The right to play.
The right to play. So if there are certain norms that infringe on those rights, then there's a problem. And we want the same thing, the same equal opportunities for boys and girls. And I think as UNICEF, we try to work to ensure also that boys have, sometimes, also there are social norms around boys as well.
Yes.
It's also hard for boys.
The way they can behave or have to behave.
They're not allowed to cry, right? They're not allowed to express their feelings.
They have to be stoic.
They have to be stoic. They have to, go with it. That's really hard for boys as well. So we focus on both boys and girls, and I think we focus on mental health as well, because mental health is a big issue, and we try to ensure that children have access to mental health, that first they understand that they're self-aware.
Yeah, they need to be aware of their emotions, what they're feeling, and express it.
Yes, connect with their emotions. Self-awareness is the beginning of the solution, right? So we ensure that, there's self-awareness and that they have the mechanisms to ask for help, right?
That's the big one.
From an adult that they can trust. and referral system, and making sure that they have a healthy life so that contributes to their mental health rather than, causes detriments to their mental health.
And unfortunately, it spans all generations.
It does, and I think, my generation and perhaps my parents' generation were not so aware of mental health. We had to beat it, deal with it.
Just get over it.
Get over it, right?
Yeah.
And it's not so easy.
No, it's
right? Not. Mental health is like breaking a leg.
Mm-hmm.
It's health, right? And whatever happens in your head and in your heart, it can be an impediment for other benefits of life. A child who is mental health is affected might not do so well in school.
No, they won't be able to focus in class.
They might not be able to play, right? They might not be able to have a successful life, what we call a successful life, because of mental health. So I think it's really important that we address mental health issues. In Uzbekistan, like in any other countries, we, as UNICEF, we like to focus on the game changers.
And
right?
What are those?
For me, the game changers, preschool education is a game changer. Another game changer is ensuring this linkage between learning and earning. Another game changer for me would be meals at school. Why? Because it affects the family's budget.
Yeah.
And it has to do with equity and poverty. And a child who has, a meal at school, at least we're sure that he's ready or she's ready to learn because, there is a meal at school. That's a game changer.
Because when you're hungry, it's impossible to concentrate on anything.
Mental health programs are game changers because they have repercussions on other aspects of life, right?
So are these mental health programs, are they in the schools themselves?
They're inserted in everything that we do, in the training of the teachers, in the creating participation opportunities for young people. They're inserted in all aspects of life, in the training of the doctors, in the training of the community. So mental health is cross-cutting, just like WASH, like water and sanitation, or just like gender issues. Another game changer for me would be to ensure that this new law that we have and that we supported the Senate to draft, to ensure it's on all forms of violence against children, to ensure that it's operationalized, right? To ensure that children are free from violence, free from bullying, from sexual exploitation and abuse. So that's another game changer for Uzbekistan. And so we focus on game changers.
I just want to touch back on the law on protecting the children, because this is very, very new.
Yes.
And can you tell us a little bit more about how long it's taken to get this to be passed by the Senate? How long has it taken to get everything implemented?
UNICEF has been there to provide support, to provide assistance in the drafting of the law. And I have to commend the National Agency for Social Protection for being at the forefront as well on this law. I think it's really important because it aligns Uzbekistan with all the conventions on children, with all the legal framework on children, right? It was a little bit of the missing piece in terms of legislation, right? Yeah. And it comes to protect children. It doesn't infringe on a parent's ability to educate a child, but it comes to protect children, especially children in institutions. We still have children in institutions, and a lot of those children live with a disability. We need to protect them, and we need to ensure that we have a social workforce that protects children. And we're very happy because we will have a conference very soon on protection of children, and we will, launched this partnership with Columbia University, which is training the social workforce in Uzbekistan along with UNICEF and the National Agency for Social Protection.
So creating essentially an army of child protection officers.
A professionalized social workforce, right? And I think it's really important to also work with the judicial system. For instance, one of my dreams in Uzbekistan is to ensure that institutionalization is the last resort for children who come in conflict with the law. Mm-hmm. Because we need to create diversion mechanisms like entrepreneurship, mental health programs, sports, ensuring that children that might have had some conflict with the law, community service, do not end up in an institution, right? Because the results are not good when they go to institutions. And so we need to ensure that there are diversion mechanisms to ensure that the lack of liberty is the last resort for children who come in conflict with the law.
Any words of encouragement or anything you'd like to say to the youth of Uzbekistan?
I will, there are a lot of young people in Uzbekistan. We're lucky, mm-hmm. right? Because we have a demographic bonus. And at the same time, we're seeing tremendous innovation, challenge. I have to say that I'm always taken by their dreams, when they tell me their dreams, when you speak with them. So my advice, to young people is to pursue their passion, mm-hmm. right? And to be persevering about it, to look for opportunities wherever they go. And we are here, UNICEF is here with you to create opportunities as well with the government and other partners so that those opportunities become available to you. Even young people who live in rural areas or come from poor communities, because I said we stick to the vision provided by the Convention on the Rights of the Child, that every child has a right, regardless of the environment and the conditions outside, and that we need to provide those conditions so that he or she can validate and fulfill his or her rights.
And their full potential.
And their full potential.
Very beautiful words.
Thank you.
If you'd like to follow along more closely what UNICEF has got going on here in Uzbekistan, you can go to their website, www.unicef.uz, and UNICEF Uzbekistan on all social media platforms. Thank you, and this is Dario.